Hello everyone, Emily here with Challenge 4 of NTNA Season 8. This week's challenge is called Back to the Future. This week we were asked to choose a past C&D ad campaign and give it our own reinvention with a futuristic interpretation. I chose the summer 2018 collection called Boho Spirit. This is the picture I used for inspiration, and let's get on into it. When asked to give it a futuristic interpretation, I took this as giving it a more modernized or new funky element to it. So I chose to do something I don't know if I've ever seen before, but it's called Detached tips, or floating tips as I like to call it, and reattached with the nail art. So I'm going to show you on how I did that. After cutting and filing, I went in with Beach Escape and Clay Canyon. These two colors are not from the collection, but they were the closest that I had, and I wanted to keep to the same colors as in the collection. I apply the coat super thin to make sure that they cure fully in between coats. I finished with the top coat before this next step. Before this next step, I want to make sure I go in and scrub the nails super good to help prevent pigment from getting stuck to the nail. Using black pool and a fine tip nail art brush, I am going in at the lanola of the nail and creating moons on 3 of the nails, and on the other 2 creating nail cuffs. To make sure the nail is even on both sides, I flip the nail up and down to check the symmetry. Don't be afraid to flip your client's hands over to check symmetry when you're doing nail art. Moving on to the tips, I just paint the same little moon design on all 5 of the nails. Again, flipping them up and down to make sure the symmetry is even from both sides. Now, using my favorite pigment ever, I am going in and burnishing that into the cured layer of gel, making sure to really rub it in there and dusting off any excess. The extra step you take cleaning off the extra pigment off the nail can really make or break a nail design. Starting in with the henna design, I am using a super fine tip brush. The finer tip, the better for these fine detailed lines. One of the most important tips I can give for doing fine detailed work is curing every couple of seconds in between the design. You don't want the polish to settle and run and then you lose the crispness of the design. Also, taking the extra step to make sure your design is even on both sides. When working with a symmetric design, you don't want to have one side off because it can really throw the whole design look off. One way I help keep things symmetric is if I mess up, I have a small brush I dip in some scrub fresh and go in and clean up the lines before curing. The fun thing about doing henna is there is no right or wrong to it, so adding it to a client's service can add a fun element to a plain manicure just to spice things up a little bit. All 5 nails I just did slightly different because in the ad campaign every nail was different. Besides adding the triangle coming down from the tip of the nail, then everything is slightly different. Believe it or not, I restarted this nail 3 times. So if you're unhappy with a nail design, the great thing about gel is that it wipes off before it's cured. So don't be afraid to start over. What is more modern than making 2 nails slightly different from the rest? What is that called? Party nails. Oh yes. So for our 2 party nails, I used cuticle cuffs at the base to give it a little bit of a different look from all the other ones who have the lanola filled in. I thought I would take this time to add that we were also tasked to recreate the C&D ad campaign on a model, photographing it in the same way as the ad campaign, and also showing some behind the scene footage, so stay tuned to see that as well. I can't stress enough the importance of symmetry in this design, so placing dots where you want to start keep everything nice and even. I know I've said this before, but laying out some gel polish on a palette and letting it sit in the air a little bit before you start painting thickens up the polish and you're able to paint smaller details. I decided to choose this design because I love henna and I love doing henna as well, so it just really resonated within my heart because at one time it was something that I wanted to start doing professionally and I just never got to it. But it is something I enjoy, and the art is just absolutely breathtaking, so I felt like it was a great fit. Doing things in threes really draw your eye towards a design. So a lot of my nail art has 3 main elements. It's more appealing to the eye when it's in sequence of 3. Moving on to the tips, I wanted to keep things a little bit more simple because the main part of the nail has all of the design. I created the 3 teardrop shapes by mixing black pool with a little bit of the plexi gel and then attached it onto the nail using glue and reinforcing it with the gel. I really love the effect that this gave the nail by just making it look like the tip was floating there, but still making it wearable. For 2 of the nails, I attached them using glue with 3 little rings and reinforcing it with the plexi gel. The original photo had rings hanging off the tip, so this was my reinvention of laying them flat. For the last and final nail, I used my little drill bit and drilled 3 holes into the top and bottom of the nail, and then using the rings, I attached those to still have that hanging ring effect, but again, made it more wearable. I know what you're thinking, how is this still wearable? Well, after I had all of the rings attached, I went in with some plexi gel on the back of the nail to reinforce the rings and keep them into place. Make sure your nail is where you want it before you apply and cure. Adding some last minute final touches, and here are the finished nails! Like I said before, I don't know if I've ever seen a detached nail tip and reattached with art, so I thought this was a cool new invention. And the final editorial style picture with my gorgeous and talented model Natalie. Here's the final shot. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you love them as much as I do, and I hope to see you next week. Bye!